A very rich merchant lived in one of the countries. This merchant had a beautiful wife and a very sweet daughter. But one day the beautiful wife of this merchant fell ill. The man spent a fortune to heal his wife, but to no avail. The poor woman is dead. The trader is very upset.
What should I do? My daughter is very small, and besides, I have to trade. For this, I have to go to distant places and buy goods. But I can't take my daughter with me. She's too small and can't stand these journeys.
A friend told him,
Why don't you remarry? So you become a woman in your house and she takes care of your daughter.
The merchant did not want to marry again after his dead wife, but the idea appealed to him and he finally married a woman who had 2 daughters. When the woman came home with the merchant, "Oh girl, is that it? She is very sweet. I'm sure she will get along very well with my daughters," saying, and she liked the little girl's cheek. When the merchant saw this, he thought that he had made a right marriage and set out to India the next day to buy goods again. But as soon as the merchant left, the woman showed her noble face. She gave the merchant's daughter shabby clothes. She dressed all her beautiful and expensive dresses for her own daughters. After that,
From now on, you will do the chores of this house. And I'll arrange a room in the attic for you to sleep. My daughters are delicate and kind. They can't do that kind of work.
however, one of her daughters is a fat and ugly girl who is constantly walking around with food in her hands. The other was very skinny and sick all the time. What should the little girl do? Who can help her? She no longer had any time for herself as she rushed to carry water from the well, clean the house, take care of the animals in the garden, and do the service of her half-sisters, whose wishes never ended. She always looked dirty and shabby because of her old clothes and the work she did. Finally, her stepmother found her Cinderella a fit. Even the name is now forgotten. Everyone called her Cinderella. At that time, the stepmother and her daughters were very happy with the news, while Cinderella was drowned in the law. Because her beloved father, while returning from India with his caravan, was attacked by the gangsters and died. One day, the king of the country wrote an edict and had it read in every corner of the country. The son of our king will get married, and for this all the girls of the country are invited to the palace. The prince will choose one of them, the messenger said. Of course, a feverish preparation has started in the Cinderella's house. Her sisters sewed a dress, she didn't like it and wanted another dress. The tailors, barbers, shoemakers who came to the house constantly polluted the house, and the Cinderella's business increased every day. Cinderella to her stepmother.
Mom, if I'm going to prom, why aren't any dresses sewn for me?
Her stepmother gave her a look that was both nervous and condescending.
Are you going to come to the prom too? Oh my God, who do you think likes you like this one? No, you're not going to come to the ball.
But the king said that all the daughters of the country should come.
Yes, but I guess he forgot to say that girls worthy of the palace should come. You're not in it. Now look at the work of the downward.
Cinderella was very upset, but she couldn't stand up to her stepmother. That evening, while her stepmother and older sisters were going to the ball, the Cinderella went out into the garden and cried. Suddenly, she was confronted by a fairy. Cinderella had never seen a fairy before, but when she saw the magic bullet in her hand, she decided that it was a fairy.
Why are you crying, little girl?
Because the king of our country organized a ball to choose a wife for his son, but my stepmother did not let me go.
Can you find me a pumpkin and 4 mice?
Yes, what's easier than that?
Cinderella went to the barn and brought a huge pumpkin into the garden. At that time, she found 4 rats and returned to the fairy. As soon as the fairy drove her magic dew, the rats turned into a huge and ornate palace carriage with pumpkins on flamboyant horses. While Cinderella was admiring the car, the fairy moved her camel again, and the old dresses on the girl suddenly changed into a beautiful party dress. Cinderella was a beautiful girl, but she said she couldn't go to the party in the old boats on her feet. The fairy gave the girl the wonderful glass shoe she took out of her pocket.
You have to leave the party before 12 o'clock. Because at 12 the magic is broken. Those shoes are mine, I'll lend to you and then I'll take them from you.
The fairy disappeared and the girl got in the car and went to the ball. When he entered, everyone was dancing to the wonderful music in their beautiful clothes. But the prince was sitting unhappily next to his father and was not interested in any girl. As soon as Cinderella entered the hall, the prince saw her and came towards her. He danced only with her all night. Of course, her sisters and the other girls in the hall were bursting with jealousy. Just as the prince told her to go out to the balcony, Cinderella's eyes fell on the magnificent and beautiful clock in the ballroom. Oh my God, it's 5 to 12. Remembering the words of the fairy, Cinderella ran away from the ball like a madman and tried to get into her car. One of the shoes came off her feet and she immediately ran away, because she did not have time to go back and get them. She was very happy when she came home, but she was still in her old clothes. She took off the glass shoe and took it to her room, and just then her stepmother and sisters came home.
Welcome, how was prom? Did you have fun?
Her stepmother ignored Cinderella's question by saying that she was very tired and wanted to go to bed immediately. Her sisters was very upset, but they lied anyway. They both said that the ball was so beautiful that the prince could not take his eyes off them. In fact, the prince was so indecisive that he did not know which one he wanted to marry. But they neither had the morale nor the nerve to tell them more. Even though Cinderella knew that what was said was a lie, she did not say anything. The prince who found the glass shoe gave orders to his guards.
Take this glass shoe and travel all over the country to find me its owner.
The guards went everywhere and tried these shoes on all the girls' feet, but none of the girls' feet fit these shoes. Finally, they came to the place where Cinderella lived. The sisters were even willing to cut off their toes to wear the shoes, but it didn't work. The shoes did not fit any of the girls. At that time, Cinderella, who was washing clothes in the stream upon her stepmother's request, was seen by the guards as she was returning home. They wanted her to try too, saying she must be the last girl in the country. In fact, the stepmother took the girl away from home under the pretext of doing laundry so that the guards could not see her. But her own daughters spent so much time trying to wear the shoes that Cinderella finished her work and returned home. Then she went to her room and brought the other shoe. When she wore both of them, the stepmother had nothing left to say. The guards took Cinderella and took her to the palace. After a short time, the stepmother and her daughters received a wedding invitation. When the prince heard what the girl had been through and what her stepmother and her daughters had put her through, he wanted to punish them.
Leave them alone. Not being able to marry you, despite all their efforts, and coming to my wedding will be enough punishment for them.